Muy bien, pues aquí estamos listos y qué sorpresa tener aquí al director de la famosa serie Los Escogidos de Chosen, fantástica serie que estamos disfrutando en familia y hoy aquí con una nueva película, una nueva propuesta para disfrutar también en familia. Dallas Jenkins, thank you for being here. How are you, my friend?
Hola, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, this is a very famous story, but it's a book. It's a very far from being a book to go to the big screen. Tell me, how did that happen?
So this book has been around for 50 years. Been performed as a play all over the world. It's been read in schools. People have read it at home. And my wife brought this book home from the store 20 years ago for us to read to our children. And I remember when I opened up the book and started reading, I was immediately laughing, but then I was also crying. And by the end of the book, I was so moved. I was crying and I couldn't even read it. So I handed it to my wife for her to read it. And she started crying and handed it back to me. And when I finished reading it, I said, I have to make this movie. And that was 20 years ago. And so I found the people who had the rights to the book. And I said, please, I'm born to make this movie. This is a movie I have to make. And they said, well, we've already got it set up at a big studio. And there's another director that they're going to want to work with. And so I was told no. And every year I would check in and I would say, are the rights available? The rights available? And I kept being told no, but the movie never got made. And finally, a couple of years ago, because of the success of The Chosen, the original rights holder's mom, his mom said, you better let the director of The Chosen do this movie because The Chosen is good. And so he finally watched it and said, okay, fine. So just a couple of years ago, I finally got the rights to do it. And my goal with this movie is to give viewers the experience that I had with the book, where you're going to laugh out loud and you're going to cry and you're going to truly understand the meaning of Christmas through the eyes of these children and through the eyes of a story that is not only good for kids and for families, but adults are really going to find this magical and nostalgic as well. And so that's the process of how this came to be. And we've been doing early screenings already of the movie, and I've heard their laughs, I've heard their tears and their sniffles because they were so moved by it. So I really do hope that the movie lives up to the promise of the book.
Yeah, well, it's amazing you didn't give up. I'm sure
Yeah.
you have already another book in mind. Since it's
Yeah.
20 years, it takes 20 years to do this.
Yes.
Amazing. But having laugh and crying, it's hard in the same movie. Did you adapt some of the story to have success in the big screen?
Well, the book has that. I mean, when you're reading the book, you are laughing and then you're getting moved right away. I mean, it's just the story is so meaningful and it's funny. I mean, the story is about these kids, these six herdman kids who take over the Christmas pageant, and everyone thinks they're the worst kids in the world. They're mean, they're bullies, they lie, they steal, and they're also outsiders. They're in poverty. They're on the other side of town, and so we always kind of look down on them. But because the story is told through the eyes of children, um, the kids don't fully understand what's going on and why these herdman kids are the way they are. And so that's where you get some of the humor, but then you recognize, okay, why are these kids in poverty and why are they acting out, right? And their parents aren't around. So we know that there's some sadness there. And because it's through the eyes of the kids, we don't initially see that. But as the story progresses, we really do start to see the heart of it and why these kids need the Christmas story and why they need community. But then you also see why we need to hear from them, why their perspective on the Christmas story, a new perspective, because they're in poverty, is actually closer to the heart of God and closer to the heart of the Christmas story than maybe we understand in our suburban American viewpoint. And so that's what leads to, yes, some of the humor, but also some of the meaning. And so I think that is there in the book, and I think it's also there in the movie.
Yeah. Who you think is going to benefit from this movie? The church itself? Is the message for the church or is for the people that are not Christian yet?
Yeah, here's what's so beautiful about this story is that if you're not a churchgoer, if you're not a believer in this story necessarily, but you've heard it before, this movie is going to give you a fresh perspective that I do believe is going to be impactful. Whether you are a believer or not, you can still understand and appreciate the true meaning and the true impact of the nativity story. It's not just the cute, precious little paintings that we've seen or the little cute nativity figurines where Mary is wearing white and she's so pretty and cute and everything just works out. This is a story of God coming to earth in the form of a baby, and he wasn't a traditional king. He was born into poverty, and I think that that's a message that a lot of people can relate to. But if you are a believer, if you are a churchgoer, there is something to be said about judging people and maybe trying to better understand what's behind some of the people that come into the church that we don't know and sometimes we judge, sometimes we don't understand, sometimes we look down on them. And I think this movie really has a lot to say about that, and that we can maybe learn something from them and maybe see the story of Jesus in a way that we sometimes take for granted. So we tell this story all the time, we hear it all the time, but maybe we don't fully understand the beauty of it that comes from how the story actually happened. And I think that's going to help us love others and understand others better. And that's what this movie is about.
I see. The Chosen has been a great success. Do you feel pressure also about this movie because the success of The Chosen, or if there's any pressure or not at all?
Yeah, no, I really don't feel pressure. Each project is different, and I put this in God's hands. I'm responsible for making the best 5 loaves and 2 fish that I can. And if God multiplies it to feed the multitudes, then that's up to him. So, especially in the Spanish-speaking community in South America, and to my Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters here in America, it has been so beautiful to see their reaction to The Chosen, and they've been such passionate fans. And I do think they're going to like The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, because the story really does have an appeal to people of all backgrounds. It's different from The Chosen, but it's not. I don't expect, it doesn't need to be the same as The Chosen. I don't care if it's as successful as The Chosen, but I do believe it can be impactful, and I do believe people are going to get a lot out of this movie. And if they don't, if the movie isn't as successful as The Chosen is, that's perfectly fine too. My responsibility is to make the most impactful movie that I can, that honors God and that the audience can appreciate. And then the rest is up to God.
Absolutely. Tell me about the actors. You've been working this for 20 years in your head. Do you imagine any of the actors working today?
Yeah. So for 20 years, I've been picturing the key scenes of this movie, and I've been thinking about how I would do it. When I got to see Judy Greer, who plays the mother, and Pete Holmes, who plays the dad, and Lauren Graham, who's the narrator of the film, and also she makes an appearance in this film. They are better than I ever expected. And the children who play the roles in this movie are so great. The movie is better than I imagined. And so I'm so grateful that I got a chance to work with this cast who elevated and made better some of my own ideas. So it really is something that I'm really proud of.
This is coming up on November 8th, and we are excited and waiting for it. For the last question, how do you invite the Hispanic community to see this movie?
Well, yes, I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately. I wish that I did, but I still want to say in English, and you can help translate it for me. But
Sure.
I do believe that this movie is for everyone. And I believe also, especially for communities that maybe sometimes can feel a little bit outside. Maybe they feel on the outside because they're a minority community. This movie is actually about that. So the Herdman kids are not Hispanic, but they are not necessarily in the majority, right? They feel sometimes like they have outsider status, and sometimes they feel like, well, maybe I don't fit in with the majority of the people in this community or the majority of the people in this country. And this movie is all about that. It's all about how we as Americans do need to embrace each other and do need to understand each other better. And so that's one of the things that I think is unique about this movie that can appeal to maybe those who speak a different language, or those who feel sometimes like they're on the outside or they're a minority. This movie speaks to that and says, no, Jesus came for everyone. This story is for everyone. And we need to understand that and work to understand each other better. And so I do think that there can be a redemptive and even healing message to this movie that I hope that my Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters can appreciate.
Sure, we will. We really appreciate the quality that you guys are producing. I remember watching Christian movies before, and we were so far away, but right now it's beautiful to see how we're growing on this. And thank you for what you're doing. And for sure, we're going to watch this movie. God bless you. Keep doing this job and teach others.
Yes.
how to be good movies in production.
Yes. Yeah, I do think that movies are getting better for everybody. So I hope that that you'll see that this November and December, that this can become a new holiday Christmas classic for you.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you for the interview. We'll see you later.
Yeah, thank you, my friend.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Estás viendo el canal de Radio Inspiración. Te invito a que te suscribas a nuestro canal y también le des clic a la campanita para que no te pierdas ninguno de nuestro contenido.